All right, so in this video, I'm here with my friend Kayla, and she has been a Plano resident for the last year, but she's been here before. We'll get into that. And she's gonna tell you everything you need to know about the good and the bad of living in Plano. And if you stick around till the end, she's gonna tell you her #1 piece of advice when moving to the area. And we're getting into it right now. Hey ladies and gentlemen, if this is your first time watching one of our videos, I want to welcome you to the community. And if you want to know everything there is to know about eating, sleeping, working, playing, the good and the bad of living in Dallas, Texas, well, this is the channel that helps you do that. So go ahead and subscribe right now and tap the bell for notifications so that you can be the first to learn about the latest market in Dallas, Texas. My name is Jimmy Webb Jr. and we get calls and emails every single day from people just like you ready to make a move in Dallas, and we absolutely love it. So if you're thinking about making a move, then shoot us a text, give us a call, or send us an email, and we've got your back. We're making a smooth move to Dallas, Texas. But today, I'm here, like I said in the beginning, with my friend Kayla, who has been in Plano now for the last year, but she's been other places. And Kayla, let's talk about that real quick.
Sure.
Let's talk about the timeline of, where you went, how long were you there, just so people understand what cities you've been in before.
Of course, this will show my age, I guess, a little bit, but I lived in Plano originally in the mid-90s and came here after college and spent several years here and in the area, and then had some stints in Austin and Boston and Minneapolis, and then moved back here a year ago, right in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, good timing.
Yeah,
right?
Great timing.
So Dallas was just too good to pass up?
Dallas was too good to pass up, yeah. Actually, we came here as a result of a job transfer for my husband. And it was done so with open arms. We were excited to get back into Texas.
Awesome. So yeah, today we wanted to get your perspective on what is it really like to live in Plano, the good and the bad. But Kayla, today, first we'll talk about the good stuff. So I know you mentioned the first pro is just the easy access to everything you can imagine.
For sure. I mean, things have changed a lot in the 20 years that I haven't lived here.
Yeah, I bet.
But yes, I love the access to both tollways. We live kind of sandwiched between the North Dallas Tollway and the Sam Rayburn Tollway, which I used to call 121. And
you can still call it that.
Yeah, okay, thanks. But yeah, the ability to just hop on the tollway and be anywhere in 30 minutes is great. I mean, I never really thought of Plano as being centrally located until I lived here with all the new highway access. It's made it super easy to get to the airport, to downtown Dallas, to South Lake. I work out sometimes in South Lake. And so just the access has been fabulous. Mm-hmm.
And so on my drive here, you're on right by Legacy West, and
right.
I don't know, have you seen the bridge? They're picking out that bridge over there to walk across.
Yes, I'm very excited.
Yeah.
I walk my dog across that bridge a lot, and it was just a plain kind of old walkway, before, but now it's going to be beautiful and keep us dry if it's raining. So I'm excited about that. The accessibility to walking for us, because of where we live in Plano, has been fabulous. We're people who like to walk. We've lived in downtown areas before, and so if we want to go to dinner on Friday night, we would much rather throw on shoes than get in the car.
Exactly.
And so it's been fun to have that accessibility of the shops at Legacy as well as Legacy West.
And so I know that one other thing that you said was you like how it's a newer city. You said you see a street cleaner almost every day.
I do. I think they clean these streets with toothbrushes sometimes. No, it's so very clean and fresh and new. And that is something, given the other cities where we've lived, and maybe not so much Austin, but certainly Boston, which of course is a much older city, and Minneapolis, which has the beautiful weather that it has. So those cities have a tougher time having that fresh, new, fresh flowers all the time and beautiful, brand new buildings and that sort of thing. So Plano just feels like just a beautiful city in that everything feels luxurious here.
Like the facades, I know.
Yes, the facades on the buildings. I mean, you don't see that in other cities, with maybe some exceptions of certain areas of cities, but it feels like all of Plano is that way. Mm-hmm. Even just the strip malls don't look like strip malls. They look like beautiful, Austin stone homes or something. So it's nice to see. If you haven't been in other cities, you don't really appreciate that as much, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And just kind of a quick history lesson. And you probably know this, I don't know. Dallas, how kind of Dallas started was everything was south of Dallas. Oak Cliff used to be the neighborhood, and then Highland Park. When the oil boom came, Highland Park was just north, and that was like North Dallas, right? Yeah. And then things started gradually going more north and more north to Addison, Carrollton, and then Plano, and then now Frisco is kind of maybe almost done, we might be able to say. Yeah. And so just Plano's been, it used to be farmland, and they just, what is it? What do you think? The last 20, 30 years maybe? It's been...
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, when I lived here before, the tollway stopped, I think, at Plano Parkway.
Right, yeah.
So everything past that was like a 2-lane highway, and Frisco was pasture. It was farmland. The mall, I think when I moved, the mall was just being built in Stonebriar Mall. Yeah. But when I was a kid, we would come to Dallas and we would go to North Park Mall to shop for back to school shopping because I lived west of here. And that was kind of North Dallas at the time. I mean, North Park, and that's at Northwest Highway and
that's way
75,
down there
right? So it's definitely grown a tremendous amount, and maybe started 30 years ago, but the last 20 years have it's been a boom.
Mm-hmm. So okay, let's talk about the next pro. I know you mentioned just the job scene and just the opportunity that's here in Plano.
For sure. I mean, when I lived here before, working in downtown Dallas was kind of what you expected to do. Mm-hmm. So you lived as far out as you needed to live for a cost of living perspective. And I was young. And so that put me in Plano and in Frisco and, way up north. And then I would drive downtown. Now, though, it feels like with all of the headquarters that are here, I mean, we have JCPenney right there, and Toyota and JP Morgan, and all of these companies that are here in the Plano, Frisco area. I would guess most people don't have to drive very far to get to work. I know my husband can walk to work from where we live.
That's perfect.
So, right, yeah. And I work from home, so I walk to work as well.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, excuse me, I know Frisco, which is, just north, and you'll have to check out our video on Frisco versus Plano, but Frisco they're saying that it's going to have more square feet of office space than downtown Dallas in the next 5 to 10 years.
I'm not surprised.
And you're right here, right? So you don't have to go all the way to downtown anymore.
No.
Frisco is just 5 minutes, from where you are.
I don't know anyone who drives downtown, actually. Everyone I know, and maybe some of these global headquarters that I mentioned, plus there's tons more, maybe the growth in Plano and in Frisco is a result of those headquarters being up here. Most people I know drive a little bit south or a little bit north, somewhere on the tollway or 121. Mm-hmm. So.
Great. So I know the next pro that you mentioned was just the family-friendly vibe. I know schools might have something to do with that.
So. Sure. Yeah, I mean, now that we've been gone for so long, we don't have school-age children any longer, but I know that, my niece is a teacher in Frisco ISD, and the schools here are just phenomenal. And I I know very few people who utilize private schools if they live in Plano ISD or even in Frisco ISD, and because the schools are so strong here that they don't need to do the private school thing. From a family-friendly perspective, there's no question that the core family is still a huge priority in the Plano area. And in neighborhoods, you see it, with kids out and about. And we just had Easter a couple of weeks ago, and it was on full display with Easter. And it's just fun to see all the dogs and the kids out and about and playing. So it's definitely the right environment for a young family or even like us, empty nesters.
Yeah. So I love that. And then I think kind of tying into some of that is the good weather. That's another thing that you mentioned. Yeah. Coming from Boston and Minneapolis.
I think anything's better than Minneapolis, right? But yes, I mean, my husband is a golfer, and there's no shortage of opportunities to play golf year round here. And so that's been nice to, even with the cold snap that we had this winter, that just made us kind of feel more at home.
Yeah. A good welcome.
Yeah, a good -5 welcome. So yeah, we love the weather, and I don't really love July and August weather, but we'll use those months to kind of escape and get someplace cooler. So.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So you're always gonna have a good tan. You got a pretty good tan going on. It's only April.
Yeah. Well, I've been working on it a little bit. So.
There you go. So okay, so that's the good, and then let's transition maybe to the con. The weather, like you were saying, might be.
Yeah, the weather's also a con.
Only in July, maybe August.
Only that triple
digit. If you can get through that, you'll be fine. Yeah. But so the first con that you mentioned was it kind of feels like a lot of concrete maybe in Plano.
Yes, I mean, I think if you've spent much time in some of the other places where I've lived, Austin and Minneapolis, and even to Boston to some extent, there's not as much green space here. They don't have much terrain with which to work here, so. They meaning city planners and even just developers have to be a little more creative in making their properties beautiful. And they definitely, because of the weather, they can do that with flowers and that sort of thing. But just having a big open green space is kind of nice, and there's not as much of that here.
Yeah, there's a couple. I mean, you have
Arbor Hills, yes,
Oak Point,
right
over there.
Yeah.
But that's kind of...
they're a little fewer and farther between. So it's not a huge deal, but...
Yeah, I know. I've gone hiking up. If you go up to like Pilot Point, which is, probably 30 minutes from here.
Right.
You've got some stuff up there. But.
And you can get to lakes. I mean, lakes are pretty prevalent. There's several boating lakes within, half an hour or 45 minutes. So you can get some different terrain.
Yeah, the flowing terrain.
Right.
The lake life is a big deal.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so all right, so the next con you mentioned was the cost of living in Plano.
Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised by it. I mean, and maybe this is just me being uninformed since I haven't been looking to buy a house here in the past few years. But, you always hear about the cost of living in Texas is so much less because there's no state income tax and the like. But there's still property tax, and there's still, retail sales tax and that sort of thing, which are, not insignificant. And so we were a little bit surprised. I thought, well, Frisco's a long way from downtown. When we first were looking at homes, we were looking in either Plano, Frisco, or McKinney. And we were just surprised that the home prices were as high as they were. I mean, it's still not comparable to a San Francisco or Miami or someplace like that, for sure. But coming from a very expensive place like a Boston, and even Minneapolis is very expensive, a little less so now because they're not as popular a place to be right now. But we were expecting the cost of living to be less than it is. So I don't know if it's really a negative in the overall, someone's moving here from California, it won't be a negative.
Right.
But if someone's moving here from probably Houston, I would guess that it's a higher cost of living than what they're used to.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I know. So just some quick statistics. The median home price here is $320,000. That's. I mean, the schools have a little something to do with that.
I'm sure.
Everybody's, Plano's a popular place for the school district. And then the average household income is $95,000. So, I think,
feels higher than that.
yeah. I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. It feels more expensive than those numbers.
Yeah.
But that some of that could be just apartment living and things like that.
Sure.
That might skew some of those numbers a bit.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the next con that you mentioned was it's a little tough to make friends with your neighbors, and this might be a COVID thing, but
maybe, yeah. I mean, when you move literally at the height of the pandemic, I think we moved here April 12th. So things were very shut down. So yeah, I mean, I think that in our neighborhood, I would say we don't have a lot of yard space. We're in a 0 lot line home neighborhood. And so, most of the individuals that live here are working professionals or empty nesters or maybe married before kids, that type of demographic. And so we're just not out of our homes very often. Because we don't have yards, because we don't share fences, where you're kind of talking over the fence and that sort of thing. There's not a lot of barbecuing outside and that sort of thing. So it's harder.
It's a unique little neighborhood.
It is a unique neighborhood.
I mean, you've got Legacy West, literally, well, like we're talking about. You could walk there, and you do
for
that.
Sure.
So,
yeah, I mean, because I grew up near here, I have friends here, high school friends, and my sister lives here, my niece lives here. So, I mean, I have a community here, but that's not as a result of my efforts to get out and meet my neighbors. So it's a little bit, and again, COVID certainly hasn't helped, wanting to spend time with people in their homes and in their yards and that sort of thing. So maybe that's just an observation for this time around. It certainly didn't feel that way or wasn't that way when I lived here before. I knew all my neighbors, 4 or 5 houses down.
Right. And so I think things are, as we start to get deeper into 2021 is where we are right now. I think, people are becoming more comfortable with getting around other people and things like that. So
yes, absolutely.
I think that could change, but yeah, I mean, it is a unique neighborhood. And you said people they go into their garage, you said they have to shut their garage doors.
Yeah, I think there's an HOA rule that your garage door has to remain shut, unless of course you're in the garage doing something or whatever. So yeah, people kind of drive in and close the garage and lift it to leave, and
So it's like, when are you gonna meet them?
Right.
So anyway.
Yeah.
So I think kind of rolling into the next con that you mentioned was the lack of kind of public pools that you might go meet somebody.
Yeah. So in other places that we've lived, there's this phenomenon called neighborhood pools, and so you could, each kind of development or subdivision would have its own pool. And I know there are places here, like where my sister lives in Arlington, they have that. And so I know that it exists, but we were surprised. I think it exists a little less in Plano. And we were surprised that our neighborhood, because there's no backyards to speak of, and you can't build your own, just didn't offer that. And so that's something that we've enjoyed in the past, living in Boston especially. That was a big thing in Boston. No one had their own pool in Boston because the season is so short. So it wasn't worth it to build your own. But yeah, and that's another great place to meet people, is at the pool. If you have your children, or if you're just out there hanging out on your own, it's a great place to meet your neighbors when there's neighborhood pools.
Yeah, I think maybe the country clubs have a monopoly on the pools around here a little bit. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we're not members of a country club. My husband's a member of a country club that's for golf, but there's no pool. So,
okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So, okay. Well, the next con that you mentioned was maybe the public transportation is a little more robust in other areas that you're used to.
Yes. So, not so much in Austin, but in Boston and in Minneapolis, we utilized public transportation a lot. And I know we have a number of friends from Chicago, and my husband grew up in Chicago, and obviously the L is a big way to get around there as well. So I know there's a train here because I see the tracks in downtown Dallas, and I think for some period of time, my sister actually utilized a train going from, I want to say like Arlington to downtown Dallas, but it's not something I think that's the norm. It would be nice to hop on a train, across the street and shoot to the airport, and that sort of thing would be nice. And that's kind of what we've had for the past 15 years living in Boston and in Minneapolis. So maybe someday those trains will come up north and come to Plano, and so you can shoot down and see a game at Cowboy Stadium, AT&T Stadium, or something like that. That would be nice.
I think so. Where they are now is so they kind of border the two highways that go out like that. So they have they kind of mirror 75 and 35, but they don't come down the tollway. So you'd have to go one.
They come down 75?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you'd have to like go over there or go over to 35 and get one. So.
But you can't go from Plano to say like.
It doesn't go east and west.
At all. It's just north and south. Okay. Well, maybe that east-west thing will come at some point.
Yeah, that would be a good one to have.
Yeah.
To connect the two like at the top somewhere.
Yes.
Up here.
That would be great.
There you go.
And I think there is a pretty robust bus system. I just haven't tried that before. When I said public transportation, I was really referring to like, a subway or an above ground train system. Yeah.
I mean, it kind of, I guess maybe if you're not from here, you wouldn't know this, but it goes without saying, I think that you need a car.
Oh, no question.
If you're living out here.
Yeah, for sure. You absolutely do.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right, that wraps up the cons of Plano. So let's give the people the number one piece of advice when moving to Plano.
Yes, so COVID or non-COVID, it doesn't matter. The advice is the same. I would just say do the research up front about things that you like to do, how you community with people, whether that's through working out or maybe your children, or if you have hobbies that would involve other people, or a church, anything along those lines, and get involved in those ASAP, as quickly as you can when you arrive. We arrived here, sadly in the midst of COVID, so those things had to wait for us for a while until things opened up. But the way that you'll integrate yourself into the city, you'll learn things. I mean, I was texting, high school friends saying, "Who cut your hair?" Those little things. Who's the best dentist? That sort of thing. I think if you can infiltrate into a community, into a couple of different ways, and do that as quickly as possible, then your experience here and really everywhere. I mean, that's probably the number one advice for moving anywhere. But I think that'll just make your experience more enriched.
I would have to agree with that. Yeah. So, hey, if you guys are moving or considering a move, we can help you with that and get you plugged in to a community. I know a few people around town. I'm sure
I do too.
Kayla knows some too. So, hey, well, that wraps it up. The good and the bad from a 1-year resident of Plano, but with some experience in the past, and some with other cities as well to compare to. But hey, drop a comment if you would. If you've lived in Plano before or live here now, did we miss one? Is there a pro and con or con that maybe we missed? We'd love to get your feedback on that and get in the comments. Hey, you got to tell Kayla thank you in the comments as well if you got any value from her insight here today. And again, if you are considering making a move, then you got to shoot us a text, give us a call, send us an email, and we've got your back when making the move in Dallas, Texas. And until the next video, we'll see you around town. Boom! You crushed it. That was awesome.
Thank you.
You did so good.
Oh, thanks.
So you feel good about that?
Yeah. The only thing that I wish I had said, and we talked about the proximity to Legacy West. I wish I had mentioned the plethora of restaurants and shopping. I mean, I mentioned Legacy West and the shops, but I didn't really say, you can literally eat your way through Plano.
We could do some behind the scenes. It's still rolling. We could talk about. What's your favorite restaurant? What would you say?
Wow, that's
you got one last meal. Where are you gonna go?
So I'm a Mexican food girl. In fact, we're going to Javier's tonight.
There you go.
It's my anniversary.
Oh, no way.
It is.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thanks.